everyone. Welcome back to Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. All right, here we are, part 14 of Twin Peaks. I'm Charles Skaggs.
I'm Xan Sprouse, and I don't like that number 14.
Yeah, 14 is way closer to 18 than I would really like right about now.
It's too close to 18.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Close to that final dossier, the word we hate, final.
I know. I just love these characters. I don't want them to not have hope that I'll see them again. And
right.
Maybe I will.
Well,
who knows?
Here we are, like after Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, I don't think any of us expected to get any more Twin Peaks as far as anything filmed after that point.
True.
We pretty much thought it was done.
We did, but I was a kid back then. I didn't necessarily have that feeling of lost hope that I do as an adult. I still was hopeful for things back then.
But now that you've had that taste, that 18-episode taste.
Seriously.
Or at least...
Not even that, just that Mark Frost book taste.
That's true. Yeah,
Maybe Mark Frost can just keep writing books, and we can go from there.
I would be okay with that.
I would be okay with that, too.
Because there's definitely ground to cover. So, if he wanted to do like a series of Twin Peaks books, I would be all over that in a heartbeat.
And he could go off into a million different directions. You know, do a series of Blue Rose stories or whatever.
Yeah, there was a great meme that came out. I posted on our Ghostwood Facebook page that it was like it was someone mocked up like an old Marvel style comic with about the Blue Rose cases.
I saw that. It looked like an old Marvel style, and it almost looked like a Tales from the Crypt. It was fabulous.
Yeah, it was very retro, and I posted that. I would write that as of yesterday, because I would be all over that.
I think I know somebody who could draw that too.
Yeah, that would be good. So there you go. So if Chris is up for a project, there's our project. So
there we go.
We just only have to get licensing rights. That's no big deal.
Yeah, licensing and get Marvel to agree to publish it.
Yeah, exactly. That's easy. No big deal.
Yep.
Can do it like that. So no big. All right. So part 14, the return part 14. We're going to talk about. We obviously have a lot of things to talk about, don't we?
Sheriff, we got a lot to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about, definitely.
However, as much as we have to talk about, some things happened. We had some movement, which was good. I like the movement that we have here.
We definitely had some big plot points in this episode.
Oh, we did. Especially
one concerning a Miss or Mrs. Sarah Palmer.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was definitely a WTF moment as far as I was concerned.
Absolutely. And just again, Grace Zabriskie. Phenomenal performance.
She is such an underrated actress, in my opinion.
I think so many people from this show are.
I mean...
And she's just so...
and she's in her 70s, and she's killing it on this show.
She's killing it, and she's so flawlessly going back and forth between Sarah Palmer and whatever else she is.
Yeah. There's definitely... there's all kinds of nuance in her performance, definitely. There's... that she's running the gamut of scared, confused, and just downright evil.
And also, downright evil, and that just numb for the last 20 years because I've lost my husband and my daughter.
Right.
The outward appearance she puts on as being this quiet old lady who just sits around and drinks and smokes all day, I wouldn't be surprised if that was actually who she was.
Right.
After what she's been through.
Well,
but there's so much more going on.
Yeah, I think it's like Leland. I think there's just like a glimmer of the real Sarah left that is aware of what's going on and being helpless to do anything about it. And so, she's just drinking herself into oblivion and hoping for like the cigarettes to kill her, I think, at this point. Or, like an ulcer or something, or
something.
Her liver to cash out, something like that.
Right, right. And it's not even an existence that notices things like watching the same 2 minutes of a boxing match over and over and over again all night long.
Yeah.
So,
So anyway, all right. So all right, let's dive right in. We got a
all
lot to
right.
cover. A lot to cover. First topic, obviously, we're going to talk about Gordon Cole making a call to the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department,
I love
where
this.
there's an unexpectedly welcome reunion over
Yes,
via telephone, of course, between Gordon Cole and Lucy Moran. Well, Lucy Brennan
Lucy
now.
Brennan.
Yeah,
And Lucy can be so adorable in those small moments, um, just with how literal she is about everything.
yes.
I think that is so adorable. Where Gordon Cole says, "Lucy, have you been there this whole time?" And she said, "No, I leave sometimes. Andy and I once went to Bora Bora." And I think that's adorable. How she
And that delivery was just perfect by Kimmy Robertson. This, like, oh yeah, well, of course, like, not really getting it, but just like, hey, yeah, of course we do. We go off and do like other things, not here.
I can't tell if Kimmy Robertson is playing this as Lucy doesn't get it or Lucy gets it and wants to make sure everybody else gets it
Right.
in the same way. And
So do you think Lucy is just like figuring that other people maybe just don't understand, and so she has to like kind of talk simply to them, perhaps?
part of me wonders that she wants to make sure she's clear so everybody knows exactly what she means.
Right.
Because frankly, hanging around with Andy, sometimes maybe that's not an obvious given.
That's true.
Although we've I have a newfound respect for Andy after this episode. He's
Yeah, this
definitely
this episode, I think if it has an MVP, I think it's Deputy Andy Brennan, who
absolutely.
steps up to the plate in a big way this episode,
Oh yes.
and obviously got a lot of character development in just one episode out of this.
In just 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, more
It was
than
incredible.
I think he ever got in the original series, really.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, Gordon wants to talk to Sheriff Truman, but hey, Harry's not there.
He doesn't quite
There's a Sheriff Frank Truman,
right.
and so I guess Frank informs Gordon that they found the missing pages from Laura Palmer's diary,
Yes.
which we still don't know what is in that missing page,
We still don't know that. And Gordon is acting like
where
he
it
knows.
is.
Right. Gordon is acting like this is going to be a major thing for him because he tells Frank, I can't really tell you why, but I really appreciate this. So I
Yeah,
think he knows that this is going to
yeah,
really give him something he needs.
but yeah, because he talks about how there were two Agent Coopers,
Right.
which I think is just pretty much by this point is confirming what Gordon already suspects.
I think so too. And because as we said before, I think Gordon knows a lot more than he's letting on.
Obviously, well, he's always been that way.
And I think Albert's the same way too. I think everybody in Blue Rose
Yeah,
knows a lot more than they're letting on.
yeah. Although I think the way we're finding out is through Tammy.
Yes,
So
definitely through Tammy, and we see that here too.
we should probably dive since that happened next. We should probably that kind of flows together a little bit.
Well, I mean, the only thing else I would want to say about Gordon calling Twin Peaks is that even through Gordon, you can still see that Twin Peaks has an allure that and a
Right.
fondness that
Yeah.
everyone experiences when they go there.
Yeah.
Maybe not Albert, but even Gordon is, my best to Harry and my best to you, and it felt like he was happy to be calling Twin Peaks again.
Yeah. Well, I think that if I remember correctly, Gordon mentions what's going on with Harry to Albert,
He does,
and Albert's just kind of taking it in. He doesn't comment one way or the other. Normally, he would shoot off some smart ass remark.
but I love you, Sheriff Truman.
But yeah, I think at this point he probably just like, oh, that's not great, or that's sad, or that's not great to hear, or something like that.
Right. Even Albert is not going to mock the afflicted of the living.
Yeah.
Once they're gone, you can have a funeral any old time. You dig a hole, you plant a coffin.
Exactly. But maybe he's in better spirits now since he's been kind of like hooking up with the coroner.
Right. What is the story with the progression of his relationship with the Buckhorn
Yes.
coroner? I'm very
I want to know.
I know. I know. Charles and I are here with our
Yeah, we got the
hands
hands are in our chin going, tell us, tell us.
we're eating bonbons and
Yeah.
talking the gossip about what's going on in their
Oh my
relationship.
God.
They're totally going out.
That's so funny. All right.
Yeah.
So Albert he seems to be, um, the take I get is that he's almost like evaluating Tammy, or he's like trying to coach, like, I don't want to say coach her, maybe more of mentor her.
I think he's mentoring her, and I think he's letting her in on the Blue Rose Task Force
Right.
history and what it's all about slowly to gauge her reactions
Right.
and to ensure that her reactions indicate that she is on the same path that they are, and that her brain should be going in the same right direction.
Right. That
Because
maybe that their Gordon and Albert's decision to include her was a good one.
right, exactly, and I think that when he's explaining to her the Lois Duffy case,
Yes.
and he says, "What's the one question you should ask me?"
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "What's the significance of the blue rose?" You get the feeling that Albert thinks to himself, he has this mental checklist. Okay, correct question, check.
Yes.
And
Like she passed the test.
right.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, that was nice because we kind of talked about this, how we wanted to know more about this woman who died in during the first Blue Rose case, and now here we are. We actually get the story a little bit. Um, so yeah, there's this woman named Lois Duffy who's a suspect in a murder, and this was in Olympia, Washington. So more strange things going on in the Pacific Northwest.
something there's evil in these woods.
Evil in these woods, definitely. Uh, and we find out that Gordon Cole was partners with Philip Jeffries,
Yes.
and they were investigating this case. They heard a gunshot outside her room, and they ran into the room and saw a wounded woman, and that woman was Lois Duffy. And she said, "I'm like the blue rose." And she smiled and she died, and then she disappeared.
Right, just disappeared from view,
So,
as we've seen people do
right.
several times.
So, did she go to the Black Lodge, perhaps?
That's my assumption.
Did she have the ring?
He did not mention the ring, but I have a feeling that the ring is a part of this somehow, or there might be other objects out there that do what the ring does, similar to the totems in Inception.
Right. It's just
Depends.
one of many.
One of many things.
Yeah. So, here's the fun twist. The woman that shot Lois Duffy was Lois Duffy.
Lois Duffy did not have a twin sister.
Lois Duffy did not have a twin sister, so doppelganger in play, presumably.
Doppelganger, something. So we know from the get-go that Gordon is aware of these doubles walking around,
Right.
and that that's not new to him. So he's probably searching for something similar to this. He's probably assuming that this is going to be what he's looking for eventually.
Well, I think what happened was when he talked with Doppelganger Cooper while he was in prison, and he did that whole, that kind of Erev, very word slip.
Yes.
I think that's right there. That's when he first really was like, this is not Cooper.
Right. And then, of course, Diane confirms that there is something in his heart.
Yes.
That's not him.
Right.
So
then that's kind of what set him off on this theory, and now he's going around gathering data to validate that theory, I think.
right. So Albert asked Tammy he says, what should you ask me? And she said, what is the significance of the blue rose? And he says in the answer, and so she has to sort of think about it for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that blue roses don't occur in nature; they're not natural. And she says that this is something not natural, a tulpa.
A tulpa. So,
and this made me think of, this is a little aside here. There was an episode of The Simpsons where they realized that when they were remarried,
yeah.
Homer and Marge were remarried. They had a second wedding, but Homer wanted it to be real, so he got them a quickie divorce before they got their quickie marriage.
Right.
But Reverend Lovejoy was not ordained during that time. He'd failed to send the check in or something, so he spent like a month not ordained. So they were going to get married again, and then Marge became kind of a bridezilla, and she wanted blue roses at her wedding.
Oh.
And the florist says those don't exist, and she's like, it's my special day. It's what I want. And so at the wedding, they make everything perfect. Long story short, the wedding's being made perfect by Patty and Selma to make it up to Marge for being such a jerk about Homer all those years. And there's blue roses at the wedding, and she says, "Oh, blue roses!" And then they just, they sort of lash at them like. And then the florist is like, she's like, "Back, you're a plant now." Something he had to genetically engineer for Marge's wedding. So
sounds like somebody needs to edit that together with Twin Peaks footage,
right,
on YouTube as a mashup video.
Shush, you're a plant now. And it also, again, this reminded me a little bit of The Fly, where it's duplicating something, but it doesn't know what it's duplicating.
Right.
I don't know if, for those of you who've seen the 1987, 86 Fly, the Cronenberg.
Yeah, the David Cronenberg version.
He has a problem sending organic material through the transporter pod. And he finally figures something out, and so he sends a steak through. And in the taste test, the control steak is fine, but the one that goes through the transporter, something's wrong with it. It doesn't taste right. It tastes synthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's as though it's being put together, but it doesn't know. But what's putting it together doesn't know what it is to make it what it is. It doesn't know
how to combine.
Right. It doesn't know enough about steak to make it a steak. Or like the Doctor Who episode where the first being they come in contact with, the aliens come in contact with, is the little boy with the gas mask.
Right. The empty child.
The empty child, yes. Yeah. So when it's recreating humans, it's recreating them with gas masks because that's all it knows.
Exactly.
And that's what a tulpa is. A tulpa is something that generates from collective thought.
Yeah. It's essentially a Buddhist concept of like almost
Buddhism / Tibet.
Yes. Yep.
/ the Dalai Lama / Cooper.
/ Cooper. So yes.
Yeah.
I would really like for them to get back their country.
And for the Dalai Lama to return.
Yes. So,
I would like to take love to a woman for whom I have genuine affection.
So yeah, for those who don't know, this is like a Buddhist concept where that it's essentially like a figure that's generated by collective thought, like you said, usually by people that essentially focus on developing their mental skills or very spiritual. So it's
AKA
almost,
Cooper.
Yeah, exactly. So it's almost like a Gestalt type creature generated.
Well, and it's also one of the things that it's also for is to explore other spiritual realms.
Right.
Places like the lodge, places like the waiting room, places like the outer space bunker where the fireman lives. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself at this episode.
Yes, you are, aren't you?
Also, and so it's also sort of a concept similar to astral projection.
Yeah.
Where you can imagine yourself elsewhere, and then you are elsewhere.
Like if you saw the Doctor Strange movie, you understand the concept of astral projection, being to exist outside your body and explore those other dimensions.
And this is something we've seen in literature and film
Right.
forever. Another famous example would be the Richard Matheson story, Somewhere in Time.
Right.
Which was a 1978 or 1979 film with Christopher Reeve,
yes.
and Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. What's her name?
Jane Seymour.
Jane Seymour. Yes, that's right.
Yep.
I couldn't think of it for a second.
My wife Lori loves that movie.
It is, for those of you who have not seen it, is the most heartbreaking love story. Next to, I actually think it's more heartbreaking than Romeo and Juliet. And this was one where I had seen the movie when I was young. When I was young, and then as I got older, I became rightfully obsessed with Richard Matheson's writing. Richard Matheson, writer of I Am Legend and the Omega Man, things like that, and several episodes of The Twilight Zone. So, which is very, very closely edges out Twin Peaks as my favorite television series of all time. So, and I'm reading this book, and I know what's going to happen, and he starts talking about what he's going to do to screw it all up, to end it, and I'm just
screaming at the book.
I'm screaming at the book. I'm screaming at the book. And I'm crying, I'm not even sure if I've ever actually read the last 10 pages of that book. I don't think I could handle it.
You put it down and you couldn't finish it.
I said, I can't do this. I can't watch him do this again. So, but yes, that's that whole sort of concept, or even
you missed the part where and they all lived happily ever after.
Yeah, that's not in that book.
I thought I'd try.
Yeah, well, that would again be the another Simpsons reference where they make old movies happy for the old people at the old folks' home.
Right.
So instead of Rhett Butler saying, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn," he says, "I love you. Let's remarry." And then Grandpa says, "Wasn't there a war in that movie?" And the orderlies drag him out. All right, you've been warned.
Nice.
So,
that's two Simpsons references. Yes.
I got to stop.
No, that's good.
I have gotten so much flack in my life for the Simpsons references, but
I think it's awesome.
It's been on like 30 years, man. There's a reference for just about anything.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Simpsons. That Blue Rose thing, I remember thinking, because you're a plant now. That whole sort of idea of something becoming something that isn't natural, and it looks like what it is, but deep down, it's not right. It's not right in several ways. And this could also even be something that could, this is what, and we've seen this also in Supernatural too. I don't know if there are any Supernatural fans out there, but an early episode where there was so much internet lore about this one house that beings started to show up because people said, "Oh, and did you know that old man, what's his name, had killed somebody with an axe, and he walks around at night with he's headless, he carries a rifle," and that's what happens.
So kind of like a Slender Man type deal.
Very much like a Slender Man sort of deal, where you can sort of write your way into the folklore of things, and change the path of the story, or even, and this is something that's even been compared to hauntings or imaginary friends, things like that. That the more people believe it, the more it
makes it real. Yeah, exactly.
Makes it real.
You can will it into existence.
Right. And in this case, I'm thinking that this is something that we don't know about Cooper and how far his Tibetan mysticism interest goes.
That's true.
Is this something that he's been practicing a long time? And did Bob hook onto him because he already had the Tuppa? Because he'd already been doing this? Had he already split himself?
I had not considered that, but you're saying you're wondering if he split himself before he entered the Black Lodge, before the whole Laura Palmer mystery even began.
I'm wondering that because, and to just jump ahead for a second, in the episode, we have a flashback to Fire Walk with Me, and something I had not remembered.
I remembered.
because it just seemed like nonsense at the time, where Philip
Who?
Jeffries comes into the office. Who do you think that is there?
Yeah. Points his finger accusingly.
Points his
Yeah.
finger
So
accusingly at
so yeah.
Cooper.
Now in the context, and I kind of realized I was kind of aware of that when the movie came out because when he said that line, I'm thinking, well, is he referring to the doppelganger? But it was set before that.
I was thinking when the movie came out that he was referring to the future,
Yeah,
that
that's what I thought.
in the lodge things are wibbly wobbly timey wimey,
Right.
and he's been to one of their meetings, and Philip Jeffries knows and has seen things and knows what's in store for Cooper. But now I'm thinking maybe this has been with Cooper for a much longer time, and it's making me want to reread the secret tapes of Dale Cooper and see if there's something else in there,
Yeah.
because I don't know if that is a seed that was planted long ago or if the seed has split into a different flower, but it's equally as disturbing.
All right. Now I have to break out my copy. Uh,
Yeah, I've got to go look for that.
yeah, I've got that. Actually, it's right over there, but I can't. It's a little too far out of reach, so I can't
Oh,
quite reach it. But it's over there. I know that.
it's over there. Mine's downstairs.
Yeah.
So
So, well, since you mentioned that, we should probably mention really quickly that when uh, Cole remembers this,
he
uh,
does.
and like he said, like he realizes, wow, I totally forgot about that. And he says, like now that is something interesting to think about. And Albert suddenly remembers it as well because yeah, obviously Albert was there.
And he says, I'm starting to remember this too.
Yeah, so either somehow they blocked it out of their memories, which is why they never referenced it during the series. Maybe that was just the way they that Mark Frost has come up with David Lynch to kind of like explain why Philip Jeffries wasn't referenced during the original
Right?
series.
Possibly. It was very disturbing, and it was still so fresh that he had disappeared and then came back. And again, all those lines from that scene make sense in a different way now. He was never here.
Right.
I just called the front desk. He was never here.
And of course,
So is that even Philip Jeffries, or is that a
yeah.
Philip Jeffries tulpa?
And then of course you have to consider the line, "We live inside a dream." And dreams are obviously very important in the world of Twin Peaks and David Lynch.
Yes.
And so, and that's kind of going to play into something coming up, which I'm going to get to. But first, I want to get to Deputy Diane reporting.
Yes, Deputy Diane.
And so, yes, so Diane shows up at this point after Albert and Tammy discuss a tulpa.
Right.
And I guess she finally starts coming out with a little bit more information coming forward. I guess Doppelganger Cooper talked about Major Briggs that night, and that's all she's going to say about that.
She doesn't. Yes, she doesn't. She's going to leave Major Briggs out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
She doesn't want to talk about that night, and
Yeah.
I like the way Gordon handled that. And she says, I don't want to talk about that, and he says, I understand. All you have to basically just tell me,
Yes.
did he mention a Major Garland Briggs?
Yeah. So it's like, I don't care about this other stuff. Just tell me this one thing.
And that also kind of tells us, I think this gives us more of an idea of when this conversation happened.
Right.
That, it's probably after he came back from Twin Peaks.
Yes.
So, because I remember I was questioning when they last saw each other.
Yeah, and it sounds like, I think the timeline would be Cooper comes back from the Black Lodge, Doppelganger Cooper.
Right.
Then leaves Twin Peaks. Goes, now, does he, I guess the question is, well, he probably went to see Major Briggs first before he left.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, that's when he decides to leave town and maybe goes to see Diane.
Right, which is probably
and then disappears off the map.
right. And again, regardless of the time period, I think this is what has driven Diane to drink the way she has
Because
something
whatever happened that night.
right, she doesn't want to talk about what happened that night at all because it must not have been comfortable. And it almost feels like when Doppelganger Cooper or we can start calling him Tulpa Cooper. I don't know. Or Tan Cooper. I don't know. He's so tan compared
Yeah.
to Dougie. Um,
Yeah,
when they're
I
talking,
haven't quite latched onto the Mr. C
Mr. C, yes.
tag. Yeah.
When they're talking in prison, when he's in prison and, the wall is coming up and before she even sees her, he says, I knew it was going to be you. And he says, I'll never forget that night. It's almost as though he's happy with it, but she's not.
Yeah.
So.
And that's why I kind of wondered if maybe he raped her too.
Something, but then what is going on with...
Because she almost seemed very angry about what happened that night.
Did he rape her or did he split her?
That's
because
that's a great question.
Why are we seeing these in this episode, without getting too far ahead of myself, we see Diane be extremely helpful, but we do not see her contact Doppelganger Cooper. So where are those two sides of Diane coming from?
Yeah, because that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, that obviously she's a mole for Doppelganger Cooper still, as far as we know, and I think Gordon and Albert are aware of this because they've been monitoring her texts.
Yes.
So, but interestingly, they drop another give her a little bit more detail in this episode where they talk about the ring that they found inside Major Briggs's body.
Right, and they also tell her that we're reopening this case. Cooper was dealing with it, and it's pretty much they're pretty much telling her, yeah, before he saw you, we're pretty sure he killed this Garland Briggs guy. And Diane is acting like she's aware of all of that. It's like every bit of backstory that they're telling her, she's kind of like acting like she knows about it.
Maybe they're kind of just parsing out information in the hopes that it'll trigger something that she'll start talking and give them what they want.
Right, because they're not talking about anything that doesn't involve Cooper with her. They're not talking Blue Rose. They're not talking anything else.
Yeah, they're very compartmentalizing their information.
Very much so. They know they probably can't really trust her right now. So, and Albert says, yeah, he died in a fire 25 years ago, or so we thought, but that's not what happened. He died like 4 days ago.
Right.
And he had this ring, and they tell her what the ring says.
And this brings up like a major connection.
Which
was so obvious, I feel dumb not catching it.
It's one of those things that it's obvious in 2020, hindsight being 2020, but at the time, things are so, you're looking at things that are so distanced from themselves.
Right.
That you have no reason to think of them as being connected in any sort of a way. But Diane is Janie E's sister.
Half-sister.
Half-sister, yes, that's right. They're estranged.
She hates her. She hates her, exactly.
Yeah, I hate her.
I love the point that has to clarify this. Like, okay, it's not just she's my half-sister. I hate her, too.
I hate her, yeah.
Yeah. And she's married to a man named Douglas Jones.
They live in Las Vegas.
But everybody calls him Dougie.
Right.
And her nickname's Janie E., which presumably the E stands for Evans.
That's what I'm thinking. Or it's a cute nickname that they got, that she was given. No, she said she got the nickname when she was a kid.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's probably for Evans.
So presumably they have the same father.
And I think this is the kind of thing that David Lynch will do to throw you off the tracks.
Yeah.
Because when you think about somebody named Dougie, a grown man being named Dougie, and I've known a lot of grown men named Dougie, but that's not usually what they're called at work.
Yeah.
That's usually a term of endearment,
like their wives call them, or
their wives
girlfriends,
or their friends call them. But when they're at work, they're Douglas or something like that. That's not a. But even at work, people call him Dougie. So he has this term of endearment as his name, and then he has this wife named Janie E, and you're like, okay, that's weird. But then their kid they call Sonny Jim.
Yeah.
So then you're like, oh, okay, well, this is just a mom with a weird name that calls her kid a weird name. So I think Sonny Jim threw my scent off of Janie E because these are just weird David Lynchy kind of names. Misdirection. And so, but when we start thinking about that, we start thinking, okay, this is Diane's sort of connection to Cooper. Have they asked about Vegas? No, they haven't asked yet, blah, blah, blah. And this explains Dougie. It like completely explains why Dougie.
Right.
Why not some other person? Why not some other?
Now the question, of course, becomes okay. Why did they decide? Did Doppelganger Cooper decide to bring Janie E into this?
And how long has that been a thing?
Right.
You know, is it something Doppelganger Cooper is doing to punish Diane?
Maybe.
Is a relationship with Janie E why Diane hates her? Like an old relationship with Cooper and Janie E, is that why Diane hates her? There's so many possibilities with this one.
I'm getting the impression, okay, that Diane has never met Dougie because she says everybody calls him Dougie.
Everybody calls him Dougie.
So maybe she's not familiar with him, like she hasn't met him before yet.
I would like to think so, because I would like to think that if she had met him, she would have at this point said something like, "Oh my God, he looks just like Cooper."
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
so
or she would have told a story like, you know, she always had to one up me, and you know, if I had a boyfriend, she made out with him, or
yeah, like she always stole my boyfriends,
or something like that. So it's I've been wondering about that too. So you know, how much of Janie E and Dougie is a problem for Diane, or does Diane just not even know?
Right.
So
now I know we were hoping that it was going to be the news report that would finally get Gordon and Albert and Team Blue Rose.
This is so much better.
Toward, yeah, but this is a much more direct connection that actually connects the stories.
And it gets Gordon on the phone saying, "Call the Las Vegas field office and tell them we need to find."
I love this sequence. So
this is so great.
It was so funny because so yeah, Gordon calls the Las Vegas FBI office and asks them to hunt down this Douglas Jones, and so this one local branch director mentions like, okay, it's going to be impossible to find the right Douglas Jones. And so
this is what we do in the FBI.
Exactly. So his boss, he slams his fist hard on the desk and he's like, "Wilson, how many times have I told you this is what we do in the FBI?"
That is so funny.
Just completely over the top. And I died laughing at that. I was just that
was so great.
This huge overreaction. And he's brought it up like 5,000 times or whatever, and this is the final straw. That's it.
Right.
But and then Gordon mentions to the guy there, the head guy. He says the Jones are wanting a connection with a double murder, which obviously they aren't. But that they may be armed and dangerous. Put caution in the shotgun seat.
I love that.
Which is such a Gordonism.
That is such a Gordonism.
So yeah, I just love that scene. I just thought it's such a throwaway scene, but it's funny. It
was so funny. I love that. It's like, we're the FBI. We can figure anything out that we want to.
But this director guy or whatever, the local director, is just like, just loses his cool over this Wilson guy, and I just thought it was so funny.
Who's probably the new guy, and he's all wide-eyed and ready for the very Clarice Starling, like very ready to catch his first killer kind of a guy. So
And now at this point, we continue with Gordon, and which is interesting because a lot of these scenes are rolling into the other
Yes.
as we kind of follow. So it's a much more linear storytelling this time,
For Twin Peaks, yes, it is.
especially yeah, linear. So yeah, exactly, or especially for the return. So so Gordon just all of a sudden announces to Albert and Tammy, "Last night I had another Monica Bellucci dream."
I love that he's having recurring dreams about Monica Bellucci.
Right.
I think that's fantastic. Um, Monica Bellucci,
Yes.
for those of you who don't know, has a major soft spot in my heart.
An Italian actress, we should point out.
She's an Italian actress, and she is also the oldest Bond girl
Yes,
to
she
ever
is.
grace a James Bond movie, which means
She was in Skyfall.
she was in Spectre.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. It was
Yeah.
Spectre. You're absolutely right. It was Spectre.
Um,
I stand corrected.
oh no, it's okay. They both
But
start with
but
an S.
but she was also Persephone in The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions. If you're wondering who
Right,
she is.
right. I just love that James Bond is breaking barriers. You know,
Yes.
with ages,
Yeah.
with genders, with races.
Yeah. Or
I think it's
at
great.
least with the Daniel Craig era. Yeah. So this was
Well,
a
not even with the Daniel Craig era. Back when Bernie Casey was Felix.
that's
You know,
true.
it started in the '80s. It took Albert Broccoli maybe a little bit longer.
That's true.
You
That's
know,
true.
here with the Daniel Craig era, we have a
But
female we have a young,
Black Moneypenny,
and we have a young Q,
right?
and now we have a Bond girl who is extremely sexy and desirable, and in her 50s, and it's saying,
Yeah.
hey, you know,
Yep.
screw this whole James Bond is, you know, in his early 40s, and everybody looks like they're 19.
Yeah.
No, no slight to any Bond girls or anything.
Well, I mean,
I think
Monica
great.
Bellucci is still obviously a very attractive woman.
She's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah.
Just because she's 50 has nothing to do with it. She's still
I know.
attractive. So, and obviously David Lynch feels that way,
Yes, he does.
and so does Gordon, his alias in this way. So, so in this dream, Gordon was on assignment in Paris, and Monica called him to meet at the Creperie Plugastel. Maybe I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Plugastel. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right,
Okay.
um, but anyway, so Cooper was there, and but he couldn't quite see his face, like it was kind of fading away, and he was like an image dissolving in a film. And while he was there, um, speaking with Monica, she brought some friends. And Monica tells him she spoke the ancient phrase, kind of like the ancient what was that term for the ring finger that he used when he was talking with Tammy? Do you remember?
Oh, right. I don't remember exactly what that was.
But yeah, it was something similar to that. So, but Monica says we're like the dreamer who dreams and then lives inside the dream.
But who is the dreamer?
But who is the dreamer? And that's the kicker part. So essentially, and this falls right back in with the Philip Jeffries, we live inside a dream. So is all of this that we're watching in Twin Peaks, is it a dream that's taking place in somebody's head?
Or
Is it just David Lynch's dream?
or as a famous writer once said,
Mm-hmm.
is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream.
Very nice.
That's for those of you who do not know, that's Edgar Allan Poe,
Okay.
and from the "Dream Within a Dream" poem, and
Right.
all that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream, and that's I've always loved that phrase because it doesn't it makes you really think about what the hell am I even seeing here? What am I even looking at?
Yeah.
Is this actually happening to me? Is this actually a real thing?
Well, that's kind of like also what happened with Lynch's film Mulholland Drive.
Very much. And with
which,
Eraserhead.
which obviously featured Naomi Watts.
Yes.
So.
Who has been killing it for David Lynch for the last 20 years.
Exactly.
So
is this like Sonny Jim's dream? Is it Philip Jeffries' dream? Is it Cooper's dream? Is it Audrey's dream if she's in a coma?
Right, whose dream is it? So Cooper, not Cooper, Gordon, he says in the dream he starts to feel uneasy, and that Monica motions for him to like look behind him or look back.
Yeah, like you look backwards.
Right, look back, and he turns around, and it's 10:10 on February 16th.
Yep.
I was worried about today because of the dream I had.
February 16th is also my dad's birthday, I might add.
Oh, well, hey, happy birthday, Dad.
Thanks. So, connection.
And I think this is interesting too about the time of 10:10. Little bit of bizarre trivia that I may or may not have already said on this podcast, but when you buy a clock,
yes,
clocks are always set to 10:10 because they look happy. They look like they're smiling.
Interesting theory.
Yeah, when you next time you go to a clock store, you're looking at clocks, you'll realize that they are packaged to be set to 10:10.
What if they're digital? Then you're screwed. But
that's a completely different thing. That's Casio not wanting us to be happy. So that's and when I think about things about smiling bags, smiling clocks,
right?
So yes, they're intentionally set that way so they look happy.
There is a man with the smiling clock.
So,
but no, I didn't realize that. But you're absolutely right. So, but so it says he sees his younger self, from when he was still in the Philadelphia office,
right?
And this leads us into the footage from Fire Walk with Me, where Cooper walks in and says, "Hey, I'm concerned about a dream I had." And then, of course, Philip Jeffries shows up, which we talked about. But so this was another case where Fire Walk with Me becomes very relevant to the return in ways that we didn't expect.
Ways that we didn't expect, and we now have this movie that everybody sort of ignored back in the day.
Right.
Not us, not Twin Peaks fans.
No.
Becoming this really important piece that part of me wonders, again,
yes.
I think we talked about this before, is David Lynch going, like, screw you guys, this movie was awesome. I did a fabulous film.
I kind of love that. I think you're right. I was like, maybe he's going, okay, all those critics at the Cannes Film Festival that booed at me. Well, guess what? I'm going to make this so important to the return, and you're going to love it. So there.
Right. You're going to have to go back and say, I made a mistake.
So he's like whipping out the middle fingers, going, "Yeah, screw you guys."
So,
but I mean, it's very interesting because we had the business with Annie appearing to Laura Palmer that all of a sudden relevant, and then we have the Philip Jeffries scene, which we kind of thought would become important anyway because of the various references to Philip Jeffries.
Yes,
but it was nice to actually get to see the actual David Bowie footage.
That was nice, and again, I'm still holding out hope that maybe we've heard him on the phone before he passed or something like that. So I don't quite know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, but I won't be surprised if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's one of those. It would be awesome if it did.
It would be awesome if it did, but if it doesn't, it's going to be okay.
We understand, but fingers crossed at least. Or if nothing else, maybe some of that deleted scene footage will actually turn up in the return. Maybe somehow.
That would be great because there's a lot more Philip Jeffries.
Yeah, there is.
Than that,
because
Philip
because
Jeffries makes
they
a little
brought
more
up
sense from that.
yeah because they brought up Buenos Aires
Yeah.
and in
Yes.
that whole business where Philip kind of teleports to Buenos Aires.
And Judy.
Yeah, that whole business.
So, right, the
And
whole that we're not going
we're not going to talk about Judy.
we're going to keep her out of it.
We're going to keep her out of it. Exactly.
Um so, but then, yeah, again, that's the main thing about this flashback is he points to Cooper and he says, "Who do you think that is there?"
Yeah.
And I've there have always been so many ways to interpret that, and now there's even more. And I'm thinking maybe he can, and maybe that was, and since that was probably a Philip Jeffries tulpa, maybe a tulpa can smell one of its own.
Mm.
So, and again,
That's a great theory. I like that.
and if Cooper has been so fixated on, Tibet and the monks and Buddhist mysticism and things like that, then who knows what could have happened.
So maybe he created a tulpa, but then the tulpa created a tulpa in the form of Dougie.
Or the tulpa needed somewhere to go. I remember seeing at the beginning of the series, like, what was this thing? What was Dougie? How did he? What happened? It's almost like, again, here's another example in literature is the dark half, that your imagination makes something grow outside of you that will eventually come back to get you. For those of you who have not read The Dark Half by Stephen King.
Now I'm understanding why you have nightmares.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot more sense now, doesn't it? My brain is just a web of
you're making all these
connections between
subconscious
everything. Yeah.
connections while you sleep, and it's yeah.
Yes, it's a story of a horror writer who writes stories about a specific character that comes to life in the form of the absorbed twin that he had removed from himself when he was younger. He had terrible, terrible headaches, and he was taken to the doctor, and they found what was it, teeth in an eyeball, I think, and they his family buried it because it was the twin that he absorbed.
Right.
And then they find that grave has been dug up now that he's been writing all of these books. He's sort of the part of him that can imagine this murder character. It has been growing outside of him in the form of his previously absorbed twin. So
that's a cool, creepy idea. I like it.
Have you not read that one?
I've not read it. No.
It's really good. Yeah, it's a really good one. So, right, we're not quite sure what's going on with Cooper, because was he already a tulpa? Is he?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Or has Jeffries met Cooper's tulpa at one of their meetings?
I love that you give that kind of like almost like a West Virginia inflection or whatever the accent is.
That's what Jeffries says.
I know he does. He has the accent. Yeah, it's like, we're not going to talk about Judy. Yeah,
we're not going to talk about her. We're going to keep her out.
Maybe it's more like a Texas accent. I'm not sure, but yeah.
I'm not really sure, but maybe he's seen something that looks like Cooper at one of their meetings.
Yeah.
And now that he's back in the Philadelphia office, he's surprised. Like when he sort of walks in, when he's walking in really determined when he walks into the office, and then he kind of stops, and then when he sees Cooper, he's kind of taken aback a little bit. So, who knows?
And we don't know how Philip Jeffries got from that point in the Philadelphia office
mm-hmm.
to the point in the return where he's actively, presumably, taking part in the events involving Doppelganger Cooper.
Right.
Where they're almost like a rivalry is taking place between them.
Well,
because they seem to be working at opposite agendas.
Right, and I'm curious as to how long. I am assuming it was 87-ish.
Yes.
When Philip Jeffries went away, but according to Fire Walk with Me, Philip Jeffries and Dale Cooper have never met. So, perhaps
Yeah, because
Philip comes in.
Gordon has to explain, say, Coop, this is
Coop,
the
meet the
long
long
lost
lost
Philip
Philip
Jeffries.
Jeffries.
Yeah.
Yep. So maybe there's a concern that Philip is having that he's being usurped by something that
Hmm.
isn't fully human, or that he doesn't know its current
Oh.
intentions, or like I said, maybe he saw it while he was in the lodge.
How are we going
And
to wrap all this up in 4 episodes?
we're not. We're
That's
just
what
gonna have to. We're gonna have to.
we're going to.
The time has come to admit that we are
Yes.
not going to get all the answers we want.
Yeah. Well,
So,
especially if they keep throwing out more questions at this point, at this
right,
stage. Yes.
right.
Yeah. I think we've kind of passed the point of no return, where we're not going to get the. You're right. We're not going to get the answers, all the answers that we need. But
No,
it does. Like again, it sets up like, well, hey, if Mark Frost wants to do a series of books that could wrap some of this stuff up, that would be cool.
that would be fine with me. Or even if he wants to bring up more questions, I don't mind.
Or if somehow Lynch could be persuaded for Twin Peaks season 4.
Well, it was hard enough to get
I
Twin Peaks
know,
season 3
I know, I
off the ground,
realized.
but it is good to know that I know you talked about this last week. It's good to know that I think with the good press they're getting and all of the
Subscriptions,
fans,
yeah,
right? I think Showtime's a little more apt to give David Lynch whatever the hell he wants.
yeah. I think
So,
Showtime got what they hoped for it. Maybe
and
not as
then
much,
some.
not as much as ratings, but the subscriptions. I think because what's going to be really interesting is how many people cancel their subscriptions after Part 18.
I'm curious about that too. Like I used to do back in the
Like, will
day
this
when
be
I would,
this huge drop off, and they'll be like,
yeah,
they'll be on like, you know, their knees going, please do Twin Peaks season 4, please. It's all we've got.
yeah. Maybe people will get hooked on that
Yeah,
Liev Schreiber show and have to keep it or
yeah.
something. But
We don't have
yeah, like
We don't have Penny Dreadful anymore. We need something.
right, right. And people have another year for a new season of I'm Dying Up Here. Come on.
Yeah,
Um, and it just reminds me of back in the day when I would get HBO for a month in the summer so I could watch Wimbledon. And then as soon as it was gone, I'm like, see ya.
yep.
So,
Kicked you to the curb.
right. It could be something like that. So, um, and as we talked about, and I think I mentioned this um, on the Facebook page that it was a when you talked about how the time was changing for Twin Peaks,
Yes.
and Showtime is not stupid enough to put Twin Peaks up
Well,
against
they did for a
Game of
few
Thrones,
weeks. They did for a
and
few weeks, and then they learned their lesson.
they learned their lesson.
They're
That's the
like,
thing.
oh, maybe we should move this. Yeah.
Maybe we should move it because yeah, I remember talking about this when Twin Peaks first came on the air. I said I love you American Gods, but you're getting DVR'd. If something's
Yeah.
getting watched live, it's Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
So
All right. So I think from this point we go back to Twin Peaks to
to one of
the
the best scenes in the entire series.
well to the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department as I'm showing
Nice,
off my shirt.
nice T-shirt, Charles.
Thank you. So so yeah, sandwiches show up. They arrive. We get a bunch of
Turkey and
cheese.
cheese,
Yeah, so
ham and
we
cheese,
beef and
roast beef and
cheese.
cheese,
Yep.
just cheese. Who ordered just cheese?
Yeah, so
Andy.
for anyone wondering, yeah, exactly. So Sheriff Frank Truman likes the roast beef and cheese. Bobby and Hawk took the turkey and cheese and the ham and cheese.
Hmm.
But Deputy Andy Brennan, just cheese.
I'm curious. Is that because Andy's cheesy? But he's not after this episode. I have to say
No, he's not anymore.
this.
So and we have the scene we've been waiting for a while.
Oh, this was so great.
Go ahead. You're so excited. Go ahead. You can talk about it.
Chad gets arrested.
Chad is arrested. Yay!
Chad gets arrested. Oh, Chad,
you're a bad
you know
policeman,
what you
Chad.
did, Chad.
You're
We've been
bad.
on to you for a long time.
Yeah,
Chad gets arrested.
so here we are thinking that Chad's got everybody snowballed and completely hoodwinked.
And they do that. They sort of like lure him into the conference room where they're packing up their packs to go out hiking
Yep.
to find Jack Rabbit's palace.
I think Chad is like, okay, hey, where's my sandwich?
It's like, hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, handcuffs! Oh my god!
What is this?
And then
You don't know what you're doing.
And then
he's
it's
all,
like, you're making a mistake. And I
yeah.
think Chad thinks that, maybe his Richard Horn connections make him more badass than he really is. But
So you think maybe Lucy did see what he was doing and then told Sheriff Truman
I would like to think so, because as this episode has shown us,
with the mail?
and we've seen this before with Lucy too, where
Right.
she's,
More observant than what you think.
instead of typing up notes, she's typing what Mike and Bobby are saying.
Yeah, that.
And
That's a great reference.
Andy and Lucy, they uh, they may have fallen off the turnip truck at some point in their lives,
Yeah.
but they just fall off the turnip truck.
Well, I think it's just, like they still have their moments in the sun.
Yes, they still have their moments in the sun, and
So,
you know,
so, so yeah. So, and Sheriff Truman, who we thought was very clueless about it, he's, tells Chad, "Hey, I've been watching you. We've been watching you all along, pal."
yeah. So,
So,
and I think that and again, I wonder if we're going to find out more about is Chad, how the drugs are getting into Twin Peaks, and is he sabotaging Bobby Horn, Bobby Briggs's
yeah,
surveillance? I don't know. So a friend of mine did mention that the actor that plays Chad put on his Twitter, "Thanks for letting me be a part of this." So this might actually be the last we ever see of Chad.
oh, I hope not.
I
He's
kind of
in
do.
jail, but
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll
I don't.
find out. We'll
I
find
just.
out.
I hope he stays in jail. I hope he's the new Twin Peaks Otis. He's just in jail all the time.
Great Andy Griffith reference there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I caught that. So yeah, that was great to see it. So I was like, yeah, Chad's finally busted. About damn time. So the Twin Peaks Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, they go up the mountain to Jack Rabbit's palace, that little hangout, that little spot in Ghostwood Forest that Bobby and his father used to hang out at
And tell tall
and
tales.
tell tall tales. Yep. And obviously Bobby thinks about it very fondly. So they follow this path. They go to the old listening post area where Major Briggs worked,
Which is, of course, burned down.
what's burned
Yeah.
down. But Jack Rabbit's palace turns out it looks like almost like a big wooden throne.
It does. It's a very oddly structured old tree.
Yeah. It's almost like it almost looks like it was a big tree that somehow like was snapped or
Yes.
or burnt or struck by lightning, something like that.
I was thinking we're struck by lightning because it had so many almost tines at the top of it that were very pointy.
Yeah, very jagged edges
Yes.
to this, and so, but
And Bobby does tell everyone that his father warned him not to go up there without him,
yes,
not to go up there alone when he was younger.
and we
So
obviously find out why.
we do, and I think that statement was, if it's so dangerous, why are you taking a kid up there? But we obviously know that Major Briggs saw a path for Bobby that Bobby didn't see. So I think he knew that Bobby's going to need to know these things little by he needs to give him the foundation of the knowledge he's going to need when he's a man and needs to
Well,
find answers to things, but he's not going to give him everything right away.
or was this something that he saw, like being prescient, able to see the future?
That's what I'm thinking, because
Yeah,
when he
so
said, someday Sheriff Truman, Hawk, and Bobby will come asking about
right,
Special Agent Dale Cooper, and this is what you need to give him. So we know that Major Briggs didn't do things without much forethought, without really giving it some thought.
yeah, Major Briggs definitely thought long term,
He did.
and
Sure.
and obviously he did that with Bobby, but he did it in a way that that Bobby actually liked, even when he was going through his rebellious teenage years.
Eventually, yes, Bobby learned to appreciate
Right.
what was going on.
Yeah,
So,
which was good. So Andy reminds everybody, hey, we need to put soil in our pockets,
right.
which is very important, as it turns out. So they walk 253 yards due east, and they go through the forest, and all of a sudden they see a mist with
Yes.
which is flickering with light.
And electric noises.
Yeah, electric noises, and all of a sudden they look down, and there is a naked woman lying there. Her face is obscured.
Mm-hmm. But it's a naked woman.
Yep. And because hey, it's Showtime, we can get away with that. And so they kind of go around to the other side and see that, oh, guess what? It's Naido,
It's Naido.
the woman
And
with no eyes.
yes, and she's making and Andy kneels down and holds her hand because we know Andy is an extremely compassionate, empathic person.
Right.
We know that from the pilot. Um, and he's just sort of holding her hand and just being there while she just sort of shakes and makes these sort of guttural primal noises
Yeah,
that we
it's
can't
almost
understand.
like a chittering monkey chimpanzee
Mm-hmm.
type noises. But yeah, now we last time we saw Naido, this was what, part 3, where we saw her kind of swan diving, or what, actually taking the nesty plunge into space,
And the angels didn't save her.
and the angels didn't save her. But obviously, apparently, that was some move so that Cooper could leave
Right.
that kind of limbo realm.
I think, and well, and as we see what happens is, so when we're looking at Nida, we pan over to a little clearing with a
Yes,
little tiny little pond of liquid that we've seen before. That's usually been like scorched.
under the sycamore tree.
It's usually been like scorched oil in there, but now it's this white creamy stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's almost like, hey, this is like butterscotch pudding or something.
yeah, very.
It's like
Maybe
it's like a tan, or a like it's definitely not the dark engine oil.
it's not
it's
the dark engine.
lighter.
Maybe if you tap it with a spoon, there's creme
Yeah,
brulee under it.
that's nice.
So we're trying to figure out where
Or
Nida
as
came
I call
from.
it, creamy brulee.
Keep creamy brulee.
Yes.
Either way, breaking the shit. That another reason why you need to see Amelie
Yeah.
because about the joys of breaking the sugar on top of a creme brulee. Anyway, so we've got
I've seen my wife with creme brulee
it's
because once a year I take her out. We go over to the Columbus Fish Market,
oh
and
nice,
she orders creme brulee.
tasty,
And either we do it for our anniversary or for Valentine's Day. We kind of alternate.
cool.
And but yeah, we do that at least once a year. And she just loves that creme brulee. So yeah, I know. And she like will finger it right out of the bowl to get every last drop.
Oh, I'm sure that if you made creme brulee at home, you would have her doing like a Jello shot of it,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I would not blame her one bit. I would not judge her in the slightest. I'd be like, all right,
You go, girl.
I'm going to do that too. Anyway, so so
So essentially, it was okay. So if the black engine oil was the connection to the Black Lodge, presumably this is a connection to the White Lodge.
that was my thinking because it's the same sort of little, clearing with a little
Yeah,
basin pile, and we have
but it's interesting. There's actually connections in both. Like both of them exist in Ghostwood Forest, just different locations.
just different locations. And that was another thing when they showed up to the woods. I almost expected them when they drove up to the woods. I almost expected Jerry Horn to show up, um, just because he's, we still don't know where he is. He ran out of the woods, but that's all we know. What did he see?
I think I'm high.
Yes. So,
Couldn't
but
resist.
we haven't seen Jerry. So anyway, so they're trying to figure out what's going on with this woman, and then Frank says it's 253, and
Yeah,
then
yeah. So 253, just like 253 yards,
yeah,
and yeah, exactly that moment, we get another vortex in the sky.
Another vortex in the sky, just like we saw when
So,
we went to the zone
so like
with
the
Bill Hastings.
leaves and the trees kind of swirl into like reality almost kind of distorts itself to create this vortex.
Right. And I'm wondering, is Naido sort of a harbinger for that? Like, is her being there mean it's open? Because
A
if
harbinger.
she jumps to just to
Well,
distract it to let Cooper go through it, I don't know.
the way I kind of saw it, the way she was warning Cooper, remember when he was there
Hmm.
in the space realm, she was warning him about Mother,
Right.
and so in the and the American Girl was warning him about Mother. So
Take it easy,
the
baby.
so so the way I see it is that yeah, Naido coming to Earth is that she's warning there to warn everybody about Mother arriving on Earth.
That's what I'm thinking too. And there's something that
So
she's
yeah,
there
I
to.
agree with that harbinger theory.
And so, you know, they're looking up at the sky, trying to see. They're just
They're
sort of. I
staring.
don't. They're staring. They're like flabbergasted at this. Um,
Now
and
now remember
Andy's
we had seen Gordon go through that when he saw his vortex that
right.
we were concerned and so was Albert that if he stared at it too long he would get he would disappear. He would be
And he started to flicker in and
right.
out of view. So as the audience, we know that something is about to
So we're
happen.
like don't stare at it, don't
Like
look at the light.
don't look directly into it. Go near it, but don't look into it. So and at this
Turn
point,
away from the light.
I'm wondering who's going to go, and I'm assuming it's Naido, but it's not. It's Andy,
I thought maybe Hawk would disappear.
possibly. But
But
even Hawk seems like this is completely new to him.
yeah,
So
but Andy was definitely unexpected, I thought. But it was a welcome, I thought, because just like holy crap, that vortex chose Andy.
right, and Vortex chose Andy, and I felt so happy that Andy got to do something this important.
Yeah.
And
So Harry Goaz gets to step up to the plate at last.
who is killing it
Yeah.
again.
So yeah, he disappears. Now all of a sudden he does that kind of quick disappearing like he just popped out of existence.
Right.
And then when he arrives, presumably he arrives in what I have to think at this point is the White Lodge, right?
That's what I'm thinking because of who's there. Because he arrives back into, hey, look at him, pop
Yes.
figure of the giant slash
The
question mark
fireman.
question mark question mark. Um. So it's the waiting room from the black and white one that we saw.
Yeah, exactly. So the
What
episode
is that episode title? I can't think of
from episode 8.
eight.
It was got a
Was
light, got a light.
was that kind of light? Okay,
Yeah.
right. So that's where he is, and he is with Carol Struyken, who we
Yes.
just refer to as the
Right.
giant. He's
Right.
question mark. What is he? 5 or 6 question marks? I
I think
forget.
it's 7. I think it's 7
Is it 7? Okay.
because it's one if you notice 7 letters in or 7 question marks, 7 letters in the word fireman.
Oh,
Dun dun
dun,
dun.
dun, dun, dun. Look at you and your crossword. Look at you and your crossword puzzle skills.
Yes.
But yes, that's the
7
first words that the giant says to Andy are "I am the fireman."
Yes. So at
And
last we have a name for Carol Struyken's character this time. Now, whether that's this, one and the same as the giant, or maybe the
right.
giant's like his doppelganger. Maybe the giant is the fireman's doppelganger.
Oh,
Because remember, the giant was in the Black Lodge.
he was. That's true. But he was also
The
there giving the warning when Josie died.
yeah, yeah,
So maybe there's two halves to everything. So
hmm
well, of course there's two halves to everything, but maybe
but the way I kind of saw it was that the giant in the original series finale that maybe the giant was manipulating
hmm
Cooper so that to get him inside the Black Lodge.
perhaps Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
for whatever purpose, but yeah, I just kind of like maybe he was kind of like acting as a benevolent figure, but was really kind of manipulating events to get him into the Black Lodge.
Something. Yeah, something. So Andy's sitting there, and all of a sudden, there's a
And
this.
we're doing it in the black and white again because
Well, yes, we're in black and white again. And so Andy's sitting there, and all of a sudden, he has this object in his lap, this sort of Frank Gehry overthruster looking thing. That,
it almost looked like that kind of thing you do when you fold paper together and you do the my mother told you to not this and this is that and you pull it open
the
and
fortune teller.
Yeah, the fortune teller thing, yeah.
Yes. The game, by the way, is called MASH.
Oh, is that what it's called?
That's what it's called. Yes.
Okay, okay. I didn't know the actual name.
Oh, I forget.
But you know what I'm talking about.
I forget what the A stands for. Because basically it told you
it's an acronym.
Yeah, it stands for Mansion something Shack House, and that's on the things on the inside. That's what you pick.
Yeah.
There's numbers on the outside, letters on the inside, and then you pick a number, and then you do the 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and then when you open it, based on the letter, that's where you're going to live in the future. Is either a mansion. And I wish I could remember what A stood for. Shack and a house.
Okay.
And then when you pull those flaps up, it tells you who you're going to marry.
Right.
And usually it's some gross boy from your class.
I was probably that gross boy.
Because this happens this is a third grade game.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what that is. So he has this object that lets off a similar mist that we've seen.
Yeah, it's almost like it's got a little funnel to like release mist or smoke,
right,
or what have you. And so like as the smoke kind of envelops Andy, his face, then all of a sudden like it's almost like the smoke is supposed to get him in a state where he can understand what he's seeing.
Right.
So he looks up and there's like a big white circle above where he's sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, the fireman shows him like clips, like basically he's like recapping, like
here's where we are so far.
Previously on Twin Peaks,
right? Previously on the Visions.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
we see, we see the glass box mother monster abomination. Yeah. We see
the experiment. The experiment. Yeah.
The Garmin Bozia with Bob in it.
The woodsman, the guy. That guy. That guy.
And then we see the image from the pilot with the girl that runs screaming down the quad.
That's the second time we've seen that because we first saw it in the premiere, right?
We did.
And so I have to wonder what the significance of that scene is.
Me too.
Because obviously it's in the Fireman's Greatest Hits package.
Right, and maybe it's something that is also a harbinger because it's her screaming that makes Donna realize what happened.
Yeah. So maybe
she hears the girl screaming, she looks over and sees that Laura's chair is empty, and then she figures it out.
So what I'm wondering is was that girl that was screaming, was it originally when you're watching the original series pilot, you're thinking, oh well, she just found out that Laura's dead, and starts screaming across the courtyard.
Right.
But what if she saw something?
What if they were unrelated things?
Exactly. Or
and we're just seeing it from Donna's point of view.
Yeah.
And how Donna's able to put it together.
Yeah. And so like maybe there's a story there that we don't know yet.
Yeah. I'm not sure about, because that does seem to be, it's almost like shorthand for us as the viewer saying, okay, this is somehow connecting to Laura.
Unless that girl turns out to be Miriam or something.
Go away, Richard.
Go away, Richard. Yeah.
So,
she kind of looked like her a little bit, so that's why I'm just trying to connect them somehow.
Yeah,
I could be completely wrong about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Probably am.
We see that, and then we see Laura again with the angels.
Yeah, the angels kind of bookend Laura's homecoming
Hmm.
queen
Yep.
image,
We see Naido as we just saw her.
right?
Then we see Cooper and Doppelganger Cooper sort of flickering in and out of each other, like almost like trying to
Right,
line up two images and one on top of the other,
right.
like you do, like you see on forensic shows where they try and line up fingerprints and
Yeah.
footprints and things like that.
Is it
Um,
better A or B? One
better
or
like this
two?
or better like
Yeah,
this?
like you're having an eye test. So, and then we see a phone ring,
Hmm.
and then
I think
Andy sees himself
with Lucy.
and Lucy, and he's guiding her into a room. And then we see the telephone pole, the evil demonic telephone pole,
Right.
right outside the Fat Trout Trailer Park.
The number 6 trailer
The
pole.
number, that intersection that where that little kid was killed recently by Richard Horn,
Yep.
and then the smoke comes out of that white circle recap screen, and then Andy just kind of like, okay, I got what I need, bye, poof,
And
disappears.
then all of a sudden Andy is like, he's like on it. He's like,
Yes, yeah, but because well, the first thing though, the rest of the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department, so they kind of like flicker around Jack Rabbit's palace, kind of like the Woodsman.
they do. They look exactly, they go,
Like
there's
they kind of
multiple
like,
versions of them
yeah,
and they go in and out of visual,
yeah.
just like the Woodsman.
And then Andy shows up at last with Naido carrying in his arms, like essentially like the cover of Crisis on Infinite Earths #7.
Oh my gosh. He's not crying though.
Comic reference, but yeah,
So yeah.
no, he's not. But that
Are we
iconic
gonna
iconic George Perez cover. I'm a big George Perez fan, so
maybe what'll happen is when Doppelganger Cooper finally turns into Good Cooper, we'll
yes,
see him walking away through an alley, and that dirty leather jacket will be in a trash can.
yes, yeah. Doppelganger, no more.
Yeah. Another comic reference.
Another comic
Spider-Man.
reference. Spider-Man, yes, Amazing Spider-Man. So John Romita. So so yeah, we saw that, and then so Andy comes out carrying Naido, and yeah, you're right. He's all Mr. Assertive, like he's dialed right in at
He
this
just
point.
boom. He's like, we got to get her. We got to get her down this mountain. People want her dead, and she's very important.
Right,
Don't
and
tell anybody about this.
yes.
She. We need to put her in a cell where she'll be safe.
So like Andy's calling the shots. Andy, of all people, is calling the shots.
And everybody, I think, is just so sort of flabbergasted by what they've seen and the fact that Andy
Right.
knows what the hell he's doing. And
And nobody seems to think, holy crap, that woman has no eyes. What's up with that?
right, she has like stars that
Nobody
look like leeches instead of eyes. You
like
know,
or like yeah, like her eyes were sewn shut, but then they got all infected
oh
underneath,
yeah,
like kind of
horrible.
pussy and gross. But because they're kind of pudgy and
Hmm.
like you just want to kind of poke at it and see if pus comes out. But
I would, but that's just
you
me.
just go
But
poke, poke,
so
poke,
then
poke, poke.
and then they all sort of look at each other like that was a hell of a thing.
Yeah,
They have no idea what is going on, and he's like, and they're like, I don't even remember what just happened. I don't remember anything.
yeah.
So,
Even Hawk, who you would think because he's sensitive to this,
well,
you
and
would
Hawk is just so dialed into the world around him
right.
that it's surprising that this even caught him
Yeah.
completely off guard. So,
But apparently, the reason the dirt turns out the dirt was so important was because it essentially grounded them,
mhm.
so that it brought them back to that spot, to Jack
Right.
Rabbit's palace. Like it was like their anchor, so that after being sucked into that realm, they kind of like, okay, they could have been, if they didn't have that soil in their pocket, they could have been still out there wandering.
Earth to earth,
Yeah.
ashes to ashes, dust to
Funk,
dust.
funk to funky. We know Major Tom's a junkie, but
But
more David Bowie. But
more David Bowie, yes, definitely. So, here's something that I think is interesting, though. Andy says she needs to be put in a cell where she'll be safe.
yeah,
This is not
she'll be safe here. Yeah,
this is not traditionally a safe place in Twin Peaks or David Lynch in
No.
general.
Remember back in the original series where James was brought into the cell? Yeah. And Mike and Bobby start barking at him like dogs.
Right. And what happens to, what happens to Bill Hastings happens in police custody, not
Yeah.
necessarily a cell, but, he sees some nasty stuff in some cells.
Right.
And Leland, absolutely.
Although that was more in um, he was isolated though.
Right, he was isolated, but also lost in the movie Lost Highway. Sitting alone in his cell with a horrible pains, Bill Pullman becomes Balthazar Getty.
Right.
So jail cells are not traditionally safe places. So I'm curious as to
bad metaphor. Yeah, it's a dangerous metaphor.
Or is she there to keep something else safe? I don't know.
Well, either that or maybe Andy was told to put her there because there's another character there, as it turns out. Well, there's two other people. Obviously, there's Chad, who is having like the worst day ever for Chad.
Yeah, Chad.
Good. So,
yeah. Go to hell, Chad.
Yeah, you're a very bad person, Chad. You give good policemen a bad name.
Bad name.
And Lucy's all off in the corner, like looking all proud and smug.
Yeah, she made this. That's what makes me even more convinced she made this happen. Yeah. So they bring Naido back to the sheriff's station, and Lucy's very maternal, gives her pajamas and a nice pink robe. And
yeah, Lucy's not asking questions like, why does this woman have no eyes? Nobody's asking this question.
That's the thing. When you're in Twin Peaks, you've seen some shit.
Apparently.
And she's
They're like, oh, woman, no eyes, but big deal.
Yeah. So, and then we get a little glimpse into the naughty side of Lucy and Andy. Yep. And how they probably totally did it at the sheriff's station that night all the dogs got let loose.
But there's a third person there who's very interesting in the sense that, okay, we're told, okay, it's just some drunk that seems to be like mimicking everything back. But, but this guy, this drunk, starts kind of chittering back at Naido, who's chittering away.
Right.
The drunk...
Are they able to talk to each other?
Exactly. Are they actually communicating instead of him just parroting?
Yeah.
And, more importantly, he's bleeding out the side of his mouth.
And, there's part of his face is missing.
Yeah. And so that leads us into something else because, hey, who have we heard lately that was apparently bleeding out of the side of his mouth? And we'll get into that more a little later.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So the question is this Billy?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, if Billy is the same guy that Richard...
Yeah, we don't know because there was
it's not the same guy?
He didn't look like the farmer that Andy was supposed to meet up with.
No, and it's a different actor than the farmer.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure about that, but it's certainly...
But it seems like, okay, how many characters are going to be bleeding out of their mouth in this show?
Or their neck.
Well, yeah, that's something else.
Yeah.
That's coming up, kids. Stay tuned.
There's a long way to go, kids. This was a hell of an episode, let me tell you.
Strap yourselves in. We're going for a ride.
Going for a ride, kids.
Yep.
So,
everyone fasten your seatbelts.
It's going to be a bumpy night.
Yeah. I was quoting my Life with the Thrill Kill Cult from the Crow soundtrack.
Oh, yes. Oh, it's been a long time.
That's an obscure reference, I know. But I love that Crow soundtrack. It's like my definitive 90s soundtrack. That and Nirvana's Nevermind.
Okay.
Or maybe Green Day's Dookie.
And Pearl Jam's 10.
I was never a big Pearl Jam fan.
But I feel like we couldn't avoid it.
Yeah, that's true.
It was not that there's anything wrong with Pearl Jam per se, but it's just it's when you hear it, you're like, oh, 90s.
Yeah. Or maybe I'll throw in REM's Green. as well.
Well, REM's Scream was 1989.
Oh, you're right, it was.
So you're maybe
Yeah,
out of
you're
time.
maybe out of time. Yeah, that'd be good. That's a good one.
But I think if you're going to pick a definitive album to define the 90s, I think it's probably Nevermind.
Yeah.
Nevermind, possibly Downward Spiral.
Yeah. You're or Pretty Hate Machine.
Yeah,
You think
I,
Downward Spiral more? Nine
I
Inch
think Downward
Nails.
Spiral mainstreamed them a little bit more. Mainstreamed Nine Inch Nails a little bit more than Pretty Hate Machine did, because Pretty Hate Machine was so electronic
Yeah.
and sort of Euro poppy.
Yes.
But
You see
yeah,
how
so
you see how quickly we veered completely off the road on that one.
no, let's
Just
just be honest here. The definitive soundtrack to the 90s is the soundtrack to Fire Walk with Me.
there you go. That works. That works perfectly.
There you go.
And it brings us right back into focus. Okay, just like that. All right. So this point, we completely shift gears once again as we go to the Great Northern Hotel, where we finally get to hear James speak.
Yes, I remember that was the first thing I thought of when I heard this. I was like, well, there you go, Charles.
There you go. James speaks. So apparently James isn't like as cool as we thought he might be because, hey, he's working as a security guard at the Great Northern.
Nothing wrong with that.
You know, for the guy who was like having sex with his girlfriend and like
Well, I think it is
using her
interesting.
as a prostitute in his like bordello and
Well, that is a
yeah,
strange, but I don't. Does James know all that?
I don't know if he does. I would hope he does.
And that's well, I don't know if he would. And as we determined from the episode where he does agree to pay Miriam's hospital bills, Good Ben has been back for a long time.
That's true.
And and we talked last week about maybe James has been away from Twin Peaks for a while. So, but I do
So
think
maybe this is like the first job he could get until
not
he
even,
gets.
not even that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a security guard at the Great
No,
Northern.
no.
The Horn family probably employs like 70% of this town
You're,
in
pro- you're probably
or
you're
another.
probably right. You're probably right.
Because especially since we're not, there's no not necessarily a sawmill anymore.
Yeah, or
But,
and it's probably like, well, it's either this or the Big Ed's gas farm, so I'm going to work for Benjamin Horn.
well, and it seems like he has, different, he has different hours to keep. There's nothing wrong with his job, but I do
No.
think it's interesting that we have
Yeah,
the two rebels, the bad boy and the biker,
yeah,
are in these positions of authority now, which I think is interesting.
yeah. Well, it's almost like that. Okay, hey kids, you know those rebels with the leather jackets? Well, guess what? They grow up, get jobs, get cleaned up, and get their act together, and
Just like the rest of us, they mellow out,
yeah, exactly. So
and
yeah,
they find that.
the rebels have sold out.
Well, and this is, not to be too, but
That's
suburban upper middle class white
yeah,
boy rebellion
yeah.
is full of shit most of the time.
Well, yes, I totally agree. It's like this big fraud, and then eventually, well, some people realize it and grow up and get their act together. Some people don't,
Right?
and
Red.
still continue to live. Yeah, Red. That's a great example. But Red may be more than he appears, so he may have something
Red.
else going on.
Yeah, Red may be more than he appears, but still, I do think that's interesting that Laura likes these bad boys. I
Yeah,
mean, Bobby was pretty bad because of
yeah,
Laura,
yeah,
and James was just sort of a tortured teen,
yeah.
with the no good mom and the being lonely. But so yes, James is working at the Great Northern with Freddie.
Yeah, so we're introduced to a new character because, hey, we need new characters in episode 14. So Freddie is he came over from London about 6 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and because he gives James, who's having his birthday. This is
Yes.
James. This is James's birthday, and so I guess James wants to know what the deal is with this strange green rubber gardening glove that he has on his right hand.
That can crush walnuts into dust,
Yeah,
apparently.
yeah. Or he gives him, like makes him super strong.
Yeah, makes him super strong.
So he has superpowers.
Right. But before he starts talking to Freddie, Freddie's talking to him about, if they go to the roadhouse, are you hoping to see Renee there?
Right.
And,
The girl who's obviously singing Just You to.
Right, but she's married. So,
Yes.
hopefully
That's never stopped James before.
well, and hopefully she's not going to ask him to kill her husband again.
That's right.
Hopefully we're done with that jazz.
Hopefully she doesn't have a chauffeur. Let's just put it that way.
Oh God. Yeah, seriously. But so they were talking about that, and then he says, he's like, dude, you got to tell me about this glove.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not supposed to tell anybody, but he's like, come on, Freddie, it's my birthday. Well, you won't believe me. Well, then you should tell me.
Because apparently he can't take it off. It's just this one glove. It's not like it's a pair. It's just one. So there's a story here.
Gardening glove, and if he takes it off, what did he say happens to him? It was just horrible pain.
Well, no, he said it's completely adhered to his skin.
Mm-hmm.
So, it would basically peel his skin off.
Yeah, he couldn't. They tried to take it off, and it just hurt so bad because it was adhered to him.
Yeah. So apparently, it just completely bonded to him, presumably mystically, as it turns out.
Well, as it turns out, based on the story, absolutely.
Yeah. So, he was apparently he just he wasn't doing much with his life. He's at the pub every night when he should be helping people, and he's just kind of screwing around, jumping up and down on a stack of boxes. And then all of a sudden he jumps up and gets sucked up into, you guessed it, kids, a vortex. Vortex.
Mm-hmm.
So he finds himself floating in thin air way up somewhere like a void. And once he's there, guess who he meets? The fireman.
The fireman.
So
and he calls himself, he tells Freddie he's the fireman.
Right. So, and he basically the fireman is pretty direct, apparently. He says, go to the hardware store, find a package with right-handed green gardening glove inside, place the glove in your right hand. Your right hand will then possess the power of an enormous pile driver.
Yes.
So,
and then, boom.
Yeah.
He's back in his bedroom.
Yeah. And here's the part that I thought was hilarious.
This was great.
So he says, so I woke up, got out of bed, dragged a comb across my head, ran downstairs and had a cup. And
looking up, I noticed I was late.
Yeah.
Beach fans out there.
Yeah. Now, this is obviously a reference to the song "A Day in the Life" by the Beatles.
Mm-hmm. And obviously
from the Sgt. Pepper's album.
And it's obviously a little joke that James gets and Freddie gets, and he's like, "Dragged come across, went downstairs, had a cup." No, I'm just kidding. Like he even says that he's sort of
because James is obviously musically inclined, so he's probably very familiar with the Beatles and knows the song. Right. So, sidetrack here. "A Day in the Life" was the song they were playing when I was operated on for my colon.
What?
As it went under. So another connection. Ooh.
That is really weird. Why were they playing music when you were getting operated? That's bizarre.
Well, apparently some surgeons like to listen to music while while they operate. So,
gosh.
So my surgeon, they had the radio on, or maybe a CD player. They were playing the Beatles, "A Day in the Life." This is what I was listening to as I was going under anesthesia for a operation to save my life back in 1996. So, just a little
5,000 holes in Charles' colon.
Yeah. Well, and here's the important part about "A Day in the Life" we should bring up, because hey, what's the next lyric in that song? Somebody spoke, and I went into a dream.
Yes.
So obviously, another heavy dream inferred reference here.
Exactly.
So we've got obviously dreaming going on. The question is, but who is the dreamer?
Who is the dreamer? And that's a funny thing too, because this was another joke that I felt like I saw coming, like the elephant in the pajamas joke. Because if anybody ever says to me, "Woke up, got out of bed," my brain immediately thinks "dragged a comb across my head." That's
right.
It's
automatic.
The same way if somebody tells me they went to the store and bought a toothbrush, some toothpaste, And then my next thing is I'm like, did you get a flannel for your face? Pajamas, a haircut, new shoes, and a case. I mean,
Nice.
there are some of those songs that if you say these everyday words,
Right.
your
You,
brain automatically goes to that song, and that was one of those for me too. And same thing with that joke. Something in
then
my
of course you have to ask. I need to brush my teeth.
oh, I don't want to ask that question.
Sorry.
Why do you got to take it there, Charles?
Well,
Why do you got to
I
take it?
was bringing it back to Twin Peaks.
All right, that works. Go ahead.
You did it. I
But
did it. I brought it
that's
back to
yeah,
Twin Peaks.
that's very very true. But so yeah, there are or even somebody tells me something happened in their pajamas, and I'll
Yeah.
say, how did that get in your pajamas? I mean,
Yeah.
those kinds of things that are just those popular culture references that are just burned into your brain, and you'll never
And how he got into my pajamas, I don't know.
you'll never know. I remember bringing up out of out of time by REM. I remember
Yeah.
there was a situation where um, we were in high school and we were talking about something, and somebody said, all right, consider this. And then I think no less than four of us went, consider this. And so it's like there's just
Nice.
some of those things in your brain that everybody knows. And so when you say something like, woke up, got out of bed, dragged a comb across my head, the odds of somebody getting your joke
Yes.
are extremely high.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm high.
I think I'm high.
I think I'm high.
Do you know
So,
what the odds are of people getting that joke? It's high. It's very high. We've
that's
got to bring a
awesome.
little Star Wars into this now. So, all
Very,
right.
very nice. All right, so we gotta get moving. So so okay, so Freddie walks into a hardware store, and apparently there's the box with a single glove. He tries to buy it, but this clerk won't let him buy a single glove for some reason because the package has already been opened apparently.
Can't sell it to you. It's already been open. And so he's
So
like, what the hell?
so
I'll pay full price to sell me this.
So he calls this guy a job's worth, which is apparently British slang for just this, like, a kind of civil, or not really civil servant, but just someone that works that is just
Workaday Joe.
difficult. They're difficult
Yeah.
for no reason. And so Freddie apparently pays for the glove, walks out. The job's worth chases after him. Freddie slips on the glove, but gets tackled by the Jobsworth. Then he punches the Jobsworth, and there's a crack.
He like breaks the dude's jaw
Yeah, he
with
says,
that glove.
I fear I snapped his Gregory, which is a reference, again, it's British slang, because Gregory is, because of, a Gregory is someone's neck, so he says, I fear I've snapped his neck. And because Gregory is a reference to Gregory Peck, which Peck sounds like neck, and that's apparently what they call it. It's like a rhyming slang, apparently.
Oh, makes more sense than Pain in the Gulliver, I suppose.
Yeah. So it's like Cockney slang
Okay.
for neck. I did look that up to make sure. So apparently, yeah, this was the first moment of using like this big pile driver fist. And then apparently he remembers something else. He says, once you've got the glove on, the fireman told him, go to Twin Peaks, Washington, United States of America, and there you'll find your destiny.
Your destiny.
Yeah. So here I am, and he says, on your birthday, many happy returns.
So,
which is a great prisoner episode, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. So what's the deal with Freddie? I mean, what's Freddie gonna do for us?
Well, apparently Freddie is supposed to use this fist. Now, remember, we know that Doppelganger Cooper's very strong. So, does he arm wrestle? Doppelganger
Good
Cooper?
Question.
Does he arm wrestle Doppelganger Cooper, or does he punch Doppelganger Cooper?
Because doesn't this hurt when I go like this?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Starting positions.
Good one. It's much more comfortable here.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
I'm just wondering that maybe that's why. Maybe that's why he has, because his right arm, that would be the arm wrestling hand. Remember, because Doppelganger Cooper wrestles with his right hand.
Yeah, that's right. Huh.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Interesting.
Just a theory that there may be another arm wrestling match.
Ooh, yeah.
Place your bets, kids. So Freddie goes to catch a flight to America, but apparently he already had a ticket.
He went to buy his ticket,
Dun dun
but
dun.
he already had one. There was already one there for him.
So James is like, okay, so why do you think the fireman picked you? Freddie's like, well, that's a good question. I asked the fireman the same thing, and the fireman said, why not you?
Yeah, I love that. Why not
So,
you? Yeah,
yep,
might as well be you.
yep,
Or maybe there's more to Freddie than we
yep.
know, and
So
we'll learn
apparently, so
more about him.
apparently,
But
apparently, the fireman is a pop psychologist because he's like, how do you
yeah,
feel? What do you think about that?
well, how does that make you feel?
How do you, yeah.
Well, what does it mean, doctor? Well, what do you think it
What
means?
do you, yeah, exactly. So apparently, afterwards, James goes. I was like, I'm going to go check around the furnace.
Yeah, they got to check the furnaces, and James starts hearing that same weird noise.
Yeah, you know that one from Ben's office that Ben
Yeah,
and Beverly couldn't quite figure out where it was coming from?
yeah.
Well, apparently he's like, he walks down there. Is the furnace making the sound, or was it this door
Now,
that's down
okay,
there?
what's behind that door? First of all, and
Yeah. Doors played
this,
also very heavily in David Lynch.
yes, this scene reminded me a lot of the scene from the pilot, the French movie pilot, the European movie pilot,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Where do they
where
find
they
Bob in
find
the
Bob,
basement?
where they find Bob in the basement.
Ooh, I hadn't considered that.
So
That's,
I was like, boy,
yeah.
this really remind. I mean, first of all, I'm also thinking, he's checking the furnaces. Is Freddie going to show up?
Ooh, I didn't think
But
about that. Yeah, could
but yeah,
be.
then when they came upon that door, I'm like, I got it, and I have not had a chance to go dig that up yet. I've got that somewhere, but
Yeah.
to figure out exactly what am I looking. I mean, how similar is that to that scene?
What's
That
behind door number one?
Yeah, that
Uh,
European. It
yeah.
really reminded me of that
You know,
European
I did.
pilot.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I hadn't considered that, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so
Great observation.
something else to rewatch and revisit.
Ooh, yep.
This is a good. David Lynch is pretty smart with this new series. If you haven't bought like
Yeah,
every DVD of everything he's done so far, you're gonna after this.
yeah, pretty much. Because yeah,
So
if you're the type that wants to go back and connect all the dots,
yeah,
yeah, this is a
that's
series.
another one.
This is a series that definitely encourages you to go back and watch what happened before because it factors in ways you didn't realize it factored into.
Take Monica Bellucci's advice and look back. But
Yeah,
that's another one. Whenever I hear somebody say connect the dots,
yeah.
my brain says la 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 la, like from Pee Wee's Playhouse. Connect
Oh,
the dots.
okay.
La 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 la. It's just
Nice.
those things that are just burned in your brain and will
Yeah,
forever be
yeah, exactly. You can't
put
help it.
together.
Yeah.
No, you can't help it. So
Okay, so at this point, things take a really freaky turn, even for Twin Peaks,
hmm
as we shift over to Elks Point Number 9 Bar, which I want to know how the hell that name came up. Somebody came
yeah,
up with
where
that
where
name.
exactly is this bar? Obviously, it's close enough to the
Appa-
Roadhouse because I think they used the same neon
Yeah,
sign designer.
I think it's the same guy that because remember there was that club or that bar that Diane was hanging out in Chicago or wherever that had kind of
I think that was Baltimore. I thought, but
okay,
I don't
I
remember.
can remember. Maybe yeah, maybe it could
And
be.
it kind of, One Eye
But
Jacks is
yeah,
also
yeah, yeah, that same
on
neon
sign.
sign. I think it
Yeah,
goes around. Maybe it's the guy
neon
who.
is a dying art, man. There's only a few places that do it anymore. So
That's true. That's true. So at the bar, who comes like walking down the road, but toward the bar, Sarah Palmer.
and this is like a tough sort of. It almost looks like a tough biker bar or like a
Yeah.
trucker bar, like where the Terminator shows up naked. One of those kind of places.
Give me your clothes.
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. And
That's a very good
so
Schwarzenegger, by the way.
thank you. And and so they're like, so here in comes Sarah, this sort of suburban
Older lady.
older mom
Yeah.
lady into this bar. She's just there. It has booze and she wants it. So
She almost looks like yeah. She has this look about her like she's an old booze hound. So
yeah,
she saddles up to the bar and she's like orders a Bloody Mary. Get
of
it?
course. It does.
and or if not, you will. So she orders a Bloody Mary at the bar, sits there, just kind of keeping to herself. But at the other end of the bar is the douchiest trucker you could ever hope to meet.
Well, he's not the douchiest
He's up
because,
there.
well, we all know who the douchiest trucker is. And I was actually for a second
Yeah,
wondering if that was going to be Leo Johnson.
that's true. But
But it was
it's
not.
not.
But I
It's
was
not.
like, oh, what is? I thought I'm like, oh, what is this? Is this going to be,
So yeah, this big
you know,
guy with, of course, he's wearing a T-shirt that says "Truck You,"
truck you? Which I thought was pretty great.
right? So he approaches her at the bar. He's essentially tells her, "Hey, I want to drink with you," and Sarah's trying to shrug him off because, hey,
Hmm.
what woman hasn't been hassled by some dude at a bar?
Very true.
So she's like, mind your own business, please. She actually says, please. And then he's all, that's not very polite, even though she said please, so go figure.
Hmm.
And she says, this guy's totally not getting the hint. She goes, would you sit back where you were, please? And then he counters, it's a free country.
Yes,
And then he starts stressing the first syllable of the word country, which I'm not going to say here.
he does. Yes, which is as it just if you can think about how country would be spelled without an O,
Yep.
that's where we're going with this. And
So
it's
So at
he's
this
very he's
so at,
vile with
so at
her.
this point you're like, okay, somebody please shoot this guy now.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So but yeah, he's like saying, well, hey, this country isn't very free at all actually. And he basically calls her like a dyke, and he says worse, like you like to eat
Hmm.
the
And
C
then
word,
she has
C word,
the absolute best comeback ever.
which is
I'll eat you.
yeah. And she says it perfectly menacingly. I'll eat you.
Perfectly menacingly,
Yeah,
yes, which I thought was,
yeah,
which reminded me a little bit of one of my favorite lines from The Ref. Lloyd,
yeah,
why don't you eat
yeah,
me?
yeah, yeah.
So, but she just says, "I'll eat you,"
So truck
and then
you,
he's like, "Oh, it's on now, bitch."
yeah. So yeah, truck you guys like hell you will, you miserable bitch. And then he says, "I'll effing pull your, you know,
Your
your
tiny
your
little
lesbo
boobies, but he doesn't
boobies
say
off."
boobies.
Yeah, he says the T word.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
had to be very careful here. So at this point, Sarah turns toward him and then opens up her face just like Laura Palmer did in episode or part two.
Now, when Laura Palmer opens up her face, it's this bright light.
Right. But Sarah,
When Sarah does it,
yeah, it's all, and she, yeah, turns it to her right side of her face.
mhm,
And yeah, so when Sarah does it, there's blackness in there.
darkness in there. But and
So, so, so you
before
see,
she does it, yeah, and so
she,
she just
you see,
very nonchalantly just puts her hand up to her face and just opens it like,
yeah,
"Oh, I'm going to shut you down
yeah.
right now."
So inside her face isn't that bright, blinding white light. You see, there's a hand in there which has a blackened ring finger if you look very closely,
Yep.
and you hear that electrical humming once
Hmm.
again,
Hmm.
and then you see nothing but a mouth with gleaming white teeth against that
Uh-huh.
blackness, grinning at the truck you guy like the Cheshire Cat,
Yeah.
and you're like, holy crap!
Holy crap for
I mean,
crap.
I mean, holy crap for crap, man! You see what I'm telling you there? I mean, oh, so yeah,
The king of town. By the way, there's a new
that
strong bed
that
email
che-
for those of you who keep up with
yes,
the Homestar Runner.
that's what made me think about that.
Yep.
So yeah, got the new email. Checking the
The
email.
email,
Checking.
Senior Cart Gauge. We can help you get a leg up on the pile. Anyway, we should do an online animation podcast.
That would be great.
That'd be fabulous.
That would be gold. But yeah, so very welcome return for Strong Bad. So very happy about that.
Yep.
But as far as Sarah goes, you're just like, Oh my God. For one thing, you're like, okay, I thought this could only happen in like, oh, say the Black Lodge.
Hmm.
Nope.
It
Apparently you can,
apparently can happen at Elks Point
yeah, apparently it can happen in the really real world, or is it just a dream
within a dream. Yeah,
within a
who
dream?
knows?
But yeah, so apparently whatever supernatural force this is, so anyway, so she puts her face back on,
Do
and
you really want to f with this?
yes, which was just like perfectly delivered at this point.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like she bites the dude's neck, like
Right. And the thing is, she bites the guy's neck off. Like this, like almost like
like a
how,
chunk, like it was I thought like a big chunk took like a big chunk out of there.
almost like how Dougie took part of Ike the Spike's hand off.
Yes,
Just all she just sort of leans in towards him, and it
it's this
looks like she
it's this really rapid movement, like
like
snap.
a snake. Yeah, like a
Yes,
snake. And she looks like she's biting his like a piece of his neck off, but she's not bloody.
no,
So
that's the really weird part is
so that's the thing. So it's the teeth that are under her face is probably what bit him.
yes. So
And
so there's no evidence that she did anything. So at this point, Sarah just like she knows what she did, okay? But
mhm.
she screams like like in horror, like ah, when, what,
Yeah.
this, and the bartender comes over and he's like, "Honey, we got a dead one at the bar."
And he's like, "What did you do to him?" And she's like, "Nothing. You saw me. I was just sitting here drinking."
Yeah,
And again, she doesn't. She's not bloody.
yeah.
So why
there's
would
no
there's
evidence.
no evidence that she would have done something like this?
So the bartender's not really buying it, but can't quite figure out how she did it. And so he says, "Well, okay, we'll see about this." And then she replies, "Yeah, sure is a mystery, huh?"
And oh, listen to her. She's
That
killing it in this episode.
Grace Zabriskie delivering this.
Killing it. And so she starts out with, that sort of panicky sound in her voice that we've heard her before
Right.
with, I can't find Bobby and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden just, yeah, sure is a mystery.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah, like
there's
basically
something
like
inside her that's going bad.
yeah. Yeah, the big question is obviously what's inside Sarah. Obvious theory has to be, is this mother inside Sarah?
That's what I'm wondering, is mother inside Sarah. And
So is this going to come down between like a confrontation between Laura, who has the light inside of her,
mhm.
having to face mother, who's inside her mom?
Well, and here's another thing too. My friend Troy brought this up. He usually does a fabulous recap
Right.
on his Facebook page of Twin Peaks and his thoughts about it. And he brought up something that I didn't really pay attention to, but if you take a look at Laura's homecoming photo,
Yeah.
those look like Laura's teeth.
That's what I kind of wondered because there is kind of a gap, a little bit of like front tooth over another front tooth. There's like
It's just,
it just kind of crosses over to the other tooth, and it doesn't
yeah.
look a lot like Laura's teeth. So do you think it's Laura inside her mother?
Part of me wonders that
But then why doesn't she have the light that she had in the Black Lodge?
maybe she's got to bring it and deal with this to protect her mother.
Or is this Laura's doppelganger
Or
inside?
is it Laura trying to fight in any way she can to help her mother?
I don't know.
And this guy, Sarah, if Sarah had not done this,
Yeah,
this guy they were probably going to kick the guy out of the bar, and then Sarah was going to leave after her Bloody Mary, and he's in the parking lot, and Sarah's going to get raped.
right.
And maybe this is Laura trying to break through and fight and help the people she loves as best she can. I don't know, but when
Yeah,
he mentioned that, I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't think about that." So of course I go and I,
yeah.
find the homecoming picture, and those really do look like Laura's teeth.
They kind of do because I was kind of looking at I did a Google search of I did a Laura Palmer Google search and there's various images of Cheryl Lee with her teeth and so it kind of does look like her teeth. I
Hmm.
so now we talked about that well maybe like because I threw out the theory a while back about Laura possibly being like a vengeance spirit because of all the women that are shown in Twin Peaks
Right.
that are treated so horribly by dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And so here, so for all the the critics that have been saying, well, like David Lynch treats his women horribly. Well, here we have a woman that just takes out a really horrible person in a very
Well, and
brutal way.
right, and I think that I've always had a hard time with this whole concept that showing any sort of violence towards women is in storytelling is condoning it.
Right.
But I don't think that. I think it's a very, very good way to create antagonists because, and a good way to have someone redeem themselves. Look at Benjamin Horne, um, look at Bobby, look at, all those things. I mean, when people redeem themselves, they become better people, and it's sort of because of the women in their lives.
Right.
And in one way or in their lives in one way or another, when it's all well and good to have sex with teenage prostitutes until one of them winds up dead, and then you really have to reevaluate your life. So, and this guy, I mean, he's terrible to Sarah, but dudes, if you don't back off, you're going to get your necks bitten off.
Yeah. Well, he was definitely obviously asking for something to happen to him. Just obviously he didn't expect that, did he?
No, he did not.
And neither did we as we were watching this, but
yeah, that took a dark turn pretty quickly.
So obviously Sarah just stepped out as one of the more important characters, obviously, in what's left these final 4 episodes. Obviously a very important character to watch. So we'll see where it goes. The last scene is we return to the Roadhouse. Now we don't get a musical performance right away.
No, we don't. Which is every time I see the Roadhouse, I'm like, damn it, because that means the episode's over.
Yes.
But lately we've gotten teased a little bit with the Roadhouse.
Yeah. So apparently there's this one booth where all these random characters just happen to show up every week
and start dishing on their lives. Yeah.
Yeah. So we get another pair. It's a woman named Sophie who's played by Emily Stofel, who's David Lynch's current wife.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yep. So she's David Lynch's current wife, and she's chastising this younger girl named Megan for hanging out in a nut house. And Megan is played by the daughter of Kelly Lynch, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Shane Lynch, I think is her name.
Oh, yes, I did see that. That's right.
So, yeah. So apparently Sophie says, don't go in that nut place. And Chad also mentioned a nut house, interestingly enough.
Yeah, that's true. What's going on there?
When he was in the jail cell. So apparently Megan says she only gets high at home after she lifts sweaters from her friend Paula, whoever Paula is.
Yeah.
Sophie asks Megan if she's seen Billy. So here we have a Billy connection.
Yeah, we've got Billy, and this one kind of goes in an interesting turn too.
Yeah. So basically, Megan tells this story where she was in the kitchen with her mom and maybe her uncle. She's not sure if he was there, and they saw Billy jump a 6-foot fence into their yard, running like he was being chased.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of like Jerry Horn running out of Ghostwood. He busted into their kitchen with blood coming from his nose and mouth, just like the dude in the cell.
Yeah, so something's going on.
The drunk in the cell. So everybody started screaming naturally. Billy hung his head in the sink, then turned to look at them, then ran out the back, which this was actually something that Audrey had her dream about, if you recall.
Exactly.
So Billy left as quickly as he arrived. And she talks about Megan's mom and Billy had a thing, just like Audrey mentioned.
What's your mom's name?
What's your mom's name? It's Tina. Of course it is.
Oh, yes, of course it is.
Of course it is. So this is all tying in with Audrey and Charlie.
Audrey and Charlie and Billy.
And that conversation to nowhere.
Right. So now we know, And this is David Lynch's way of telling us without telling Audrey.
Yes.
So
So
interesting.
apparently, maybe Audrey isn't in a coma after all, because, but again, this could all be happening in a dream
Yeah, that's true.
for all we know. Um, so,
And if Audrey
oh,
has
oh, and
been in a
apparently there.
coma,
Go ahead.
if Audrey's been in a coma for 20 years and she's been dreaming, she could also have her own tulpa.
That's true. Good point. Good point. So apparently there was also like a deep rumble on the soundtrack at this point when
Dun,
Tina's
dun, dun.
yeah when Tina's so basically kind of emphasizing the point like, hey, remember
Yeah.
the whole business with
Remember
Audrey.
Tina?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we Megan says, me and my mom. I don't remember if my uncle was there. So does
Are we
this?
late? Are we late for dinner with her uncle?
Yeah, I don't know what importance that has to do with anything, or if it's just some random thing that Lynch cooked up. To
Well, that's the thing, is that when we had the shooting at the double R
right?
and the woman honking the horn with the vomiting girl,
Yeah.
her uncle's here.
Oh.
So we haven't been, there haven't been that many. We got Uncle Jerry, and we have the
Yeah.
uncle. We're going to be late for dinner with her uncle that you haven't seen in a lot of years.
So
So
then, who's the girl getting sick in that car then?
I don't know. It just we've had two
Yeah.
references to a vague uncle
Yeah.
for some reason that makes something that seemed to be, for some reason, someone felt the need to say it out loud.
Yeah. It's a
So,
very interesting connection. I'll give you that.
yeah,
I
I
I
was,
didn't, I didn't even make that connection. You're absolutely
because
right.
we said I think my uncle was there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, late for, are you late for dinner with him? That was what I thought. And I was like, what is the deal? We're just bringing up uncles for no reason, and then just sort of leaving that hanging.
Yeah. So and then
So,
we get the return of the MC who introduces Lizzie,
mm-hmm.
who sings the song Wild West. And that's
Great.
where we leave off with the,
That's where we leave.
where we leave tribute to David Bowie during the
Yes.
credits.
Yep.
So baby David Bowie gets his
This is
credits
David
ending,
Bowie's,
gets his tribute episode.
and this is probably the his contribution to the return.
Yeah.
So
So we'll see. But hopefully
I'll
we'll
take
get
it.
more. Hopefully we'll get more, but you never know.
Maybe. Yeah, I would
We
love to see
because
some
well
deleted scenes.
we thought we'd only get one scene with the log lady and we got several, so
We got like 4, didn't we?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So who knows? But and that's pretty much the episode. But how holy crap, what a big episode! Obviously, because of the length of the time we've spent talking about it.
Seriously.
So yeah. So lots of stuff.
Thanks for sticking with us, listeners.
Yeah. We hopefully. I mean, if you paused us and went to go grab a snack and then came back, we're cool with that. We
That's totally
understand.
fine.
We understand. But there's a lot to unpack this week. So
We finally got some movement going this week.
yeah. So apologies for the length, but yeah, we had obviously a lot of ground to cover. So
Sheriff, we had a lot to talk about.
yes, we did. So what's your rating for this one?
This one is a 9 out of 10 cheese sandwiches.
And we got beef and cheese, roast beef and cheese, ham and cheese,
turkey and cheese,
turkey
and
and cheese.
who ordered just cheese?
Yeah.
I did. Andy's so cute.
Andy, definitely the MVP, I think, of this episode.
That's part of my high rating on this one. I really, there are times in the original series where I really liked Andy, especially, that first episode with, Tell Harry I Didn't Cry, but Lucy,
Right.
It's so beautiful.
I mean, he's
That
always, yeah.
has always gotten me. And then Andy, he sort of unintentionally finds the hidden boots at Leo's cabin,
Right.
things like that.
Where he
But this
smacks
really-
himself on the floorboard. Yeah. Which is what I have this gif of this. And so, yeah. Yeah, just. I post it from time to time, but yeah, just it's that where he smacks himself in the face.
He smacks himself in the face.
Yeah.
But Andy really
Another great moment in law enforcement history.
You don't know how right you are, Albert.
Exactly.
So yeah, I really liked seeing Andy get something, and I really like the progression we've made with the FBI figuring out where they need to go next.
Yeah. So yeah, it's It's obviously connecting, and which damn well better. We've got 4 episodes to go, so we'll
Well, and
see.
if these last 4 episodes are anything like this one,
Yeah,
they're going to be packed.
yeah. So I also gave this one 9 out of 10. I gave it 9 out of 10 extra Bloody Marys.
Oh, yes.
See what I did there?
I see what you did there.
Yeah. So raising a Bloody Mary to Sarah Palmer, or in whatever the hell is inside of her.
Whatever the hell is behind her face. Yeah,
Because holy
seriously.
crap, man.
Holy crap.
Holy crap. But, so yeah, just, that was definitely a rebound from the past couple episodes, which have been okay, good episodes. But this one, yeah, this was definitely starting to hit its stride back again as we build toward the finish.
Yes.
We don't have any Facebook feedback from Ivan Ivanov this week. So he's kind of MIA at the moment. Hope he's okay. Maybe he's just
Well,
taking.
he's liking things, so
Yeah,
he's around. He's
that's
just,
true. Yeah, maybe
like I said, he has
got
a
Tanya.
3-month-old.
He's got Tanya to take care
Yeah,
of. So
seriously,
so
he's
we'll
got,
give
he's got things going on.
you totally get a pass for that. So take care of your daughter. Your daughter's more important.
Totally.
Yeah, we get it. So next week, obviously, we're going to talk about the return part 15, but unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a little bit to discuss it because yours truly is going on vacation, and I'm going to screw up our schedule. So apologies to everybody for screwing up the schedule.
And yeah, unless we can figure out a way to do this early, we might have to.
Yeah, because I mean,
postpone things
the
a little.
episode is on Sunday, so either we scramble and get it recorded before I take off, or we actually do it right and wait till I get back. So
Yeah.
I'll leave that up to you, Zan, because I'm good either way.
Well, we'll judge that on Sunday night, won't we?
Yeah, yeah. So if it's one of those episodes like this week where it's like, oh, we got to talk about this. So who knows?
Oh my gosh.
I can't wait 2 weeks to talk about this. So
I can't even stand it. This is crazy.
so if it's a few weeks before you hear this, our next episode, my apologies. That's on me. I will own that. And but thanks for being patient if for coming back. So hopefully we'll come on back and we'll finish up the series together. And I've got Showtime apps downloaded, and I'm hoping that it won't be region locked, and that I'll be able to watch these episodes overseas. But
I'm wondering, yeah, because how long are you going to be gone? Are you going to be gone through the finale?
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm going to go through the finale because.
Oh man.
So yeah, so we have Sunday's episode right before I leave,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's episode 16, which is while I'm gone, and the two-part series finale.
Yeah, 17 and 18 are going to be
17,
together.
18
So
are bookended together. So yeah, and then after that is when I come back.
okay.
So
So
yeah.
So yeah. So this
This
is
is why I sent out the schedule to coordinate with everybody because yeah.
So yeah, this week
tricky.
is 15.
It's the absolute worst week to leave. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
for
pretty.
this
Yeah, it's pretty
podcast.
bad. So this
Sorry.
weekend it'll be episode 15, and then it'll be 16, and then 17 and 18 will thankfully be the day before Labor Day, so we can all stay up
Yeah.
throughout the night, just either crying or going, "What the hell did I just look at?"
Exactly. Or
So
watching the episode over and get the last 2 episodes again.
seriously,
Yeah. So.
or watching all of the original series again.
That's true. Because now that you've gone through the whole thing, you want to go back to the original series and Firewalk with me, and then because you can't forget Firewalk with me now.
No, you sure can. It is very important.
That's mandatory viewing now.
Yep.
All right, Zan, where can they reach you in the meantime?
Twitter. Udenax19.
There you go. Udenax.
Instagram. Udenax19. Facebook, I might be taking a little bit of a break from, but
I hope not, because I enjoy seeing your posts on Facebook.
I'll probably be I'll be checking our pages and the Simpsons quote pages.
There you go.
Just to make me laugh. But I'm Xan Sprouse on the Facebook. What about you, Charles?
Obviously, at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram, Facebook, Charles Skaggs, Google Plus for you crazy kids in the Google Plus. And, of course, my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about Ghostwood and Twin Peaks. And I just posted a thing, because apparently last night on Late Night with Seth Meyers. He apparently did a very short 2-minute Twin Peaks sketch. The premise of it's basically a one-note joke, but it's, like, okay, what would it be like if the late night show, the talk show, was set in the Red Room interviewing Laura Palmer as a guest? So
that was pretty good.
But he does this very meticulous recreation. I posted the video and a rundown on my blog, if you want to check it out. And also posted on our Ghostwood Facebook page. But yeah, he's got like Cooper's specific tie from the Red Room sequence. The older Cooper's tie.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great attention to detail in this one. So
it's very meticulous. It's great.
Yeah. So it's worth checking out if you haven't seen it already. But yeah. If you have, you know what I'm talking about. But so it's kind of cool. Just it's not as obviously as good as the Saturday Night Live skit from back in 1991.
My log says Leo did it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I gotta go.
Jan Hooks.
You're not gonna hear from the log lady. Well, why not?
Because we
only have 2 women left on Saturday Night Live, and we used them both up. My log says Leo did it. That's all I gotta go. Yeah, that was wonderful. That is an epic episode.
You saw me.
Well, we still haven't figured out who shot me. I did. You saw me.
Yeah, Chris Farley as Leo Johnson. Chris Farley was perfect as Leo Johnson.
Oh, he was so great. Chris Farley was fabulous.
Phil Hartman as Leland. That was great. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah, everyone. God, too many dead people.
Yeah.
In the world.
Okay, Mike Myers is the man from another place.
Yeah.
Now, if you notice in that sketch, Conan O'Brien is Deputy Andy.
Yes, he is. That's right, because he was
just like a bit player.
Yep.
So yeah, that's
Conan O'Brien. They both have a little poofy surfer hair,
which makes perfect sense to have him as Deputy Andy. So.
Oh, totally. Totally.
But yeah, that's a nice little bit of obscure trivia. So as for Ghostwood, you can obviously reach us at GhostwoodCast on the Twitter machine. GhostwoodPodcast@gmail.com if you want to email us and drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Especially Yvonne. Hey, we'd love to hear from you. And then of our Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks Podcast Facebook page. So please check that out and please like us. I think we're up to 58 now. We got another like. So, yep. So everybody who's been liking the podcast, thank you so much.
And if you want us to talk about you on the podcast, comment, give us a theory.
Yeah, tell us
we'll run it down.
We're running down our theories. We'd love to hear yours. So we'd love to share those if you're so inclined. And I'm sure one or two of you have a few theories of your own you'd like to share. So
exactly.
Please let us know. We'll definitely read them here on the podcast. So obviously we've talked long enough, but I guess I'll see you, Xan, in a few weeks, unless we scramble at the last minute to get part 15 recorded,
or unless you have to send me a quick message saying, "Listen, Skype me," and then turn the TV towards Skype so I can watch this because Showtime won't work here.
Help me out! I need your help. 119! 119!
I think I'm high! I don't know where my car is.
I think I'm high!
Oh, right. David Patrick Kelly, you're so wonderful.
Yep. So hopefully we'll see more of Jerry Horn, and we'll return for part 15. Hold on, kids. We'll be back. Be a little patient. And we'll see you next time on here, Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks Podcast.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. See you later.
Doppelganger.